Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Curl from grade 6 Mahakali, and today I'll be teaching all of you about a circle. A circle is a plain 2D shape with no sides or no vertices. This might be one of the most infuriating shapes of all because it has its own set of terms and concepts, but today I'll be simplifying it all for your understanding. Let's start with the construction of a circle. You can construct a circle in two ways. The first way is to use any circular object and trace it on a paper or any surface that you want to draw it on. Or B, you can use a compass. To use a compass, you need, of course, the instrument itself and a pencil. You first need to insert the pencil in the circular area inside the compass and tighten it up. Then your compass is ready to go. Now, let's move on to digital to see how to construct a circle using a compass. The first step is to put this point on any part of the paper. I recommend making a point so that just in case your compass loses balance, you can put the needle back on that point in order to make it again. The next step is to put this pencil part, move it around to the exact position you need. Then you need to hold the top part and move it around the paper. Then you have your circle. Now, let's move on to the components of a circle. Now let's start with the components. I will be talking about the 10 simplest components of the circle. The first and arguably the most simple component of all is the center. As the name suggests, it is the center and midpoint of the circle. Next is the circumference. The second component of the circle is the circumference. The circumference is basically just the perimeter of the circle. The next component is the arc. Arc is just the part of the circumference. So, for example, this part right here is an arc because it is a part of the circumference. The next component is a chord. And I'm not talking about the musical chord here. Chord in a circle is a line segment that joins two parts of the circumference together. So, for example, if I wanted to join this part of the circumference to this part, this is called a chord. The next component is the diameter. Diameter is also called the longest chord because it is also a line segment that joins one part of the circumference to another. But the difference is that it passes through the center of the circle. This thing is also the reason of how to make a semicircle in a circle. The next component is the radius. A radius is a line segment that joins the center of the circle to only one point of the circumference, not two. The next component is a tangent. A tangent is a line segment that passes through only one point of the circumference. So, for example, this is a tangent because it passes through only one point of the circumference. The next component is a sector. A sector is an enclosed space formed by two radiuses and one arc. So, for example, there's a radius right here, a radius right here, and an arc over here. The enclosed space inside is called a sector. This enclosed space is called a sector. The next component is a segment. While a sector is an enclosed space formed by two radiuses and one arc, a segment is an enclosed space formed by one arc and one chord. Not two radiuses, only a chord. So, for example, there is a chord over here, an arc over here, and the enclosed space inside of it is called a segment. And finally, the last component is called a secant. A secant is a line segment that passes through 2 points of the circumference. But the difference between the chord and a secant is that while a chord joins 2 points, a secant passes 2 points. So, for example, if I draw a line from here to here, that would be a chord, but a secant passes through. So, it would be outside the circumference of the circle. And that is it. That is the basic 10 parts of a circle. And that's it. That is the basic 10 components of a circle. I hope you all learned something and enjoyed the video. Thank you.